What is up, guys? It's Miggy. Welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. We have a special episode today because before we had one guest, now we have two. Introducing Bipoler and Greatchen. Musta?
Um, it's been good, Miggy. Last time that we've been talking here in the podcast or in the breakdown. It's all about the World Series or the M Series. Now we're in MPL once again, and it's
Woohoo!
with a new guest, just like what you said, Correction. So it's pretty nice, Miggy. It's been pretty nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
and thank you so much for inviting me for the breakdown. And I'm pretty excited to talk about especially MPL Philippines Season 17 with all of the highlights, all of the things that is happening. So why not start it now? Let's break it down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And before we get on to that, of course, we gotta glaze our guests as well. Bipolar and Gretchen are both talents here in the Philippines in the esports community here exactly in the Mobile Legends scene, and they are both casters in the Athena League. So, yeah, these guys are well decorated veterans compared to me. I'm just a baby in the esports scene, but of course they're here to break it down, and that's why I got them. I'm happy to have them as my guest because we are going to be talking about another league in the ecosystem, in the Mobile Legends Pro scene ecosystem, which is, in fact, the MPL Philippines Season 17. And right now, we are incoming the second half of our season. So we're going to do a little mid-season recap, having gone through 4 weeks of very competitive MLBB. So let's go. Here we are with the MPL Philippines Season 17 highlights and moments. Of course, before I pass it down and we start talking about it, these are the current standings with Team Liquid being number one, Team Falcons following after, Onyx Philippines and Aurora Gaming soon at third and fourth, while Twisted Minds Philippines is the same score or same stat line as Aurora Gaming. All the while AP Brand, Omega Esports, and TNC Pro Team are the bottom three. So I guess before anything, right? Let's talk highlights and moments first. So, passing it on to Bipolar, what are your thoughts or what are your favorite moments during this season or mid-season rather?
I feel like the changes coming into MPL Philippines Season 17 was mostly centric with our new players in town and the changes right before we started off the season, just like with Kella, just like with Severo, which we will be talking on later even more. But I feel like my highlight, I did put up a notepad once again, just like before, Mickey.
Yeah.
Um, Something that I really enjoyed at the very, very start, or favorite moments was mm, there's a new venue, which is pretty nice. New
Yeah.
environment, right?
Yeah.
For everyone, especially for the people in North. So big shout outs to you guys. Um, but it's almost like a deja vu situation, Miggy, wherein it's the same kind of teams, but there's even more fight for other teams just because again with the recent changes of the rosters, especially with the teams just like Onyx Philippines and Team Liquid going into it. Um that they've been more hungry, Miggy. You can feel the hunger this time for MPL season 17, for MPL Philippines. And then you have teams that are still the same kind of rosters, Miggy, that have perfected their craft and now gunning it to battle all to battle ag- to battle against all odds, up
Yeah.
against the gods of Filipino ML. So I feel like just the sheer scene right now for MPL has been somewhat my greatest moments for MPL.
Yeah. I do agree with you that this has been one of the most, or if not the most competitive season for MPL Philippines. And
Yeah.
I do agree with you that, these teams, they knew that, okay, they knew that their titles didn't matter anymore. They were looking at, yeah, okay, so we won the championship, but here we are seeing the threat, or the quote unquote threat they were looking at was Aurora Gaming, and right now they're looking at their placement is in the middle of the pack. So it just
Yep.
goes to show that it's just been super competitive. And I guess since we are discussing about competition and thoughts about it, how about you, Greatchen? What are your thoughts? Because mind you guys, she is also an MDL caster, so she also has insights coming in from the players that have been transitioned up to the MPL Pro Leagues.
All I can say is the way that MPL Philippines is continuously evolving ever since season 1. We can already see that in this season, which is season 70, the growth of the players. Some of them even came from MDL, which is a development league. And we can already see a lot of MPLable players, I would say. And that is what's amazing for this season. And if we're also going to highlight something, it would be Team Liquid Philippines.
Ooh.
At the start of the season, a lot doubted and a lot of
Yeah.
bashers kept commenting, "Oh, Team Liquid will go on for eighth place just because of the roster changes that happened." But here they are, proving against all odds, against all adversities, that they can still maintain the top one spot here in the season. And if we're also going to highlight another one, which is for the bottom teams, I would say AP Bren, Omega Esports, TNC Pro Team, even though they're currently at that type of standing, their way of improvement, the way that they improve throughout the season is almost amazing. You can already see that, for example, for Omega Esports, they were able to beat the world champions, which is Aurora Gaming, with that long game, and of course, highlighting the Fanny of Ryzen that
Of
they
course.
did, and the Guinevere of Perxiva with those adjustments. All I can say is it really doesn't matter who is at the top one, top two, all the way to top eight, because here at MPL Philippines, you can already see that we are the standard, if I would say, when it comes to competitions here for MLBB.
Yeah, I guess I do like and do agree with you how you highlighted AP Brand. See, it felt like they were lacking that guidance or that leadership, and then of course we're gonna be talking about the teams later on. But I like that this season it was solidified that James Panks's hero was Suyu. So everyone was
Yeah.
thinking that James Panks was is the man with a million moves, but just all those million moves just happened to be on Suyu because at first everyone was hating on the idea that you shouldn't be building Skypiercer on Suyu, but James Panks made them aware, made them realize that it might just be his thing because he's the only one who has made it work. But then other junglers as well, like Kyle from Team Falcons, was able to copy and replicate it. That maybe James Banks was onto something, and just goes to show that it doesn't matter if you're from the top team or the bottom team. If there's something to learn from each other, each team will be each player is willing to learn from each other to make sure that they enhance their performance and their gameplay as well. So, anything else you'd like to add regarding that, Bipoler?
I mean, there's gonna be a lot, Miggy, but I just wanna keep it keep it chill right now because I might go into a frenzy once again, just like before, Miggy. So yeah, I did like that Gretchen highlighted a lot for AP Brand here. I would like to highlight Team Twisted Minds as well because they've been pretty good, Miggy. Yes, they're
Yeah.
in the middle, but I feel like with the help of their adjustments from the off season and now going into MPL, they look like a possible number three team in my eyes. But that's just my first hot take. So yeah, I have to be chill, Miggy.
Yeah. I guess there's n- they were having consistency issues, I'd say, the start of the first
Yeah,
half because they were still trying to figure out who they wanted to put in the
that's
gold
true.
lane. But then, either way, it's either you get the question was between Nosha or Owl. Do you want the Notion
Yep.
connection or you want the
Yeah,
mechanics, the strong mechanics of Owl? But I do agree. And then these guys work as Greatchen mentioned. These guys came from MDL, and it just goes to show that they could go head to head, toe to toe with the old guards because we can see that they've been showing up from the previous season and now even more stepping up because they were able to get a bunch of 2 zeros and 2 1s, but then it just goes to go show that maybe their coaching system or their team system is working for them. And I know that Bipoler here is a TNC restreamer, one of their official restreamers. I want to know your take on how TNC Pro Team has been going.
I mean, I'll be honest with this one, right, Miggy? TNC has been playing pretty rough, especially with their matches so far. One of the times that I really got devastated was when they were up against Aurora. I believe
Yeah.
it was a 2-0-2, and it was just a great showing coming in for TNC, but it didn't really pave well, especially when there's that especially when there were matches where Lancey was in. I would have preferred Stowe, honestly,
Yeah.
just because Storm is such a fresh talent. Not really fresh, but breath of fresh air for TNC. That you have someone that is has a wider hero pool in my eyes, has that has that eagerness to just keep on going in these fights, that he does not really play for the late game, but he plays for the early, mid, and the late game as well. So you have a well-rounded player that just keeps on getting subbed out and then gets subbed in. Lancey is pretty good, Miggy, especially with his adjustments again, coming in from the past MPL season where he was clowned so much. They did place well, but you always have that thought when you see TNC, you see Lancey, and it's gonna be a downhill. But for in my eyes, with the help of Stone, if they just put him in even more, it would be pretty nice, Miggy, honestly. Plus, our junglers, man, come on. There has been I feel I saw a post where they put up all of the struggles of each team. They put finding footing for TNC. And I feel like that's true. It's he's good. He's pretty good. But nonetheless, there's still some adjustments for the team. And hopefully our 1-6 becomes something even better for the rest of the season.
Yeah, possibly 6-7. Got him. And I guess yeah, if anything else, Greatchen, would you like to add any more before we move on?
Um, I feel like apart from the teams, what is interesting about this season is the current picks. I feel like we're going to dwell on it much further later on.
Yeah.
But if I could highlight one thing right now, it would be Hanabi, since there is a
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
stereotype when it
yeah.
comes to utilizing her being the dark continent system or not that utilized accordingly. But if you're going to look at the mechanics of Hanabi, especially highlighting Netsuki, who is the favorite of Reefsing Hanabi right now, it proves to work just because of her innate CC immune. So that really is something beneficial, especially when it comes to this current meta. But let's see if we're going to, highlight something much further on later on in our discussion.
Yeah. Actually, something just sprung up in my head. The one thing I want to highlight, it's not in game, but I'm pretty sure every viewer or the ones who watch the MPL on live stream would catch it. The 6-man cast.
Wow.
That was a highlightable
I
moment.
love that.
The way they were able to just manage and coordinate how English and Filipino casting was meant to be. They just made it seem so seamless. They made it work, right? For the ones who
Yeah.
watched it, if you know, you know. But I want to hear the viewers' thoughts. I know, great chat. Our chat, you were talking about it. So what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on it?
It's really, for me, if I would describe it, it's so cute. That's the first word that came into my head. It's so cute since you can also see the different interactions, even though they're in a Filipino broadcast, English broadcast, everything seems to be interconnected with one another. And you can also see the veterans in terms of casting, because how can you actually manage that in the broadcast? Like, it's all of a sudden, it's not announced, and there you have it, just mitigating on this issue. So it really proves the skills of our casters that they too are top tiers when it comes to being professional.
How about you, Bipolar? Were you able to catch it? Or you?
Yeah, I was. I was with friends when we were watching this. It was pretty nice, Miggy. If you guys didn't see, or if you guys don't know the backstory coming in for that, it was basically some technical issues, right? Coming in to that broadcast, but you definitely saw the professionalism of these guys, especially for Leo. Big shout outs to him, right?
Woohoo.
Um, it's pretty good because I speak in behalf of Greatchen and Miggy. We were in the top 8 for the most recent caster search, which happened. Wow, that was so long
A year
ago. Actually,
ago.
no,
Happy
Yeah,
yeah, that
anniversary,
was a
yeah.
year
guys.
ago. Yeah, it was a year ago. They talked about always having that connection with casters that you almost feel like you've been together for the longest of time, and that is the epitome of how casters should be. It's almost like a family that whatever happens, you have each other's back, and with their connection from way back when, you can see that any kind of malfunction in them, there will always be someone that has this lead, and then the people will follow. And that happened in that broadcast because everyone was just, in a flow state, basically. And that was pretty nice to see. It was cute, just like what Gretchen said. I would like to extend it into looking very adorable because that is a rare sight, and they made it work. So that was pretty fun to watch, maybe.
Yeah, you get to see how much or how well they know each other. They have that
Yeah,
connection. It's like since we're talking about Leo, shout out to Leo again. It's really one of his pro tips to us when we were in the caster search was when you guys are hanging out, you're not it's not just work. You guys have to
yeah,
know each other inside and outside the game, and that's
Yep.
how true chemistry is built. And true enough, that's what was highlighted there, that they just knew who was gonna say who was gonna say what, who was gonna be the one anchoring the whole thing. They already knew without even having that conversation. They were just able to highlight that. And since we are highlighting players, we're gonna be moving on to start talking about the players of our season. And of course, we have to. It's everyone's hot topic when the season started. We're gonna talk about Severo first. So this is MPL Philippines' first Indonesian import. So let's talk Severo. I know everyone has varying opinions on this, but I guess I'll start it off and then I'll probably delve deeper once I hear you guys. So I guess for on my end, the initial thoughts of having Severo in, it was it was kind of skeptical because honestly, who was he replacing? He was replacing the gold standard. He was replacing Kelra. So he had really big shoes to fill. And what I like about what he did was he isn't trying to be a Kelra replacement. He brought his own type of gameplay. He brought Severo to the MPL Philippines. Not I'm not he didn't think of it or the way he addresses the issues or the way he addresses his gameplay. He's not trying to fill that void which Kelra left because he understands that Kelra is Kelra and Severo is Severo. So in that way, in that matter, he was able to shine as his own gold laner. As he's not there as a substitute, he's not there as a second best or a plan B. He was there because he wanted to prove that he, Severo, can make it in the MPL Philippines. So I'd like to hear you guys' thought as well. Bipolar, how about you?
I mean, Mr. Clayton Kuswan to himself, right? I mean, I feel like everyone is just really putting a lot of pressure for this guy because in my eyes, he's still a kid in the scene. He's only been in what? In the esports scene for 3 years. Looking at my research, like he came from Onyx Miracle, Onyx Prodigy, then Onyx on the next year, or kind of on the same year, and then he recently transferred to Onyx Philippines, and mechanical wise, Severo is in his high point. He has mechanical skill. He knows the game in and out, and he knows his limits towards his hero pool. And the way this guy plays the game is very different from Keller. Just like what you've said, Miggy, he doesn't wanna be the shadow of Keller. He wants to make it his own, and that's what's great about Severo because just like what I've said before, he knows his limits and he knows how to play it well. there's a lot of clutch potential with this Miggy, because one thing that I saw was the very first match where Severo played. And I restreamed that. So looking at Severo's movements, and you can definitely see that he has this connection with his team in the mid game. But when there's fights, when there's a lot of chaos in the game, you can definitely see this guy controlling it when he just has free hitting in his gold lane, coming out from his gold lane. So, I believe there was one game that he played Granger. Please correct me if I'm wrong. There was one play where it was a big team fight. There was just two players left for Onyx, but he just cleaned up house. He was able to make it an equal field. He was able to not let it end for Onyx Philippines. So all in all, mechanical wise, Severo is good, but he just doesn't have that synergy timing right now for Onyx Philippines, because coming out from his own region and adapting immediately for the PH playstyle, you have to give this guy some credit that he needs some time. And I feel like as the days go by, and with this standing being number three, it's just uphill for Severo and Onyx Philippines. It's gonna be pretty nice for him.
Yeah, I do like that. You mentioned the way he can dictate gameplay or dictate team fights. We've seen it on
Yeah.
his Yi Shin. He was able to. It seems like when he's looking for, or the team is looking for a slow opening, he's the one who finds it. It's like, I found an opening. He's the one who starts the fight, and you rarely see that in gold laners. Specifically because maybe it's because he's playing the Yi Shin because of the Mountain Shocker being a very good setup. But the fact that he can call plays as he sees them, and then Onyx, he knows that Onyx can connect. There's that certain trust that you can see with the way they play, and it's nice to see a gold laner very aggressive, very shot caller esque, because we rarely see that nowadays. Because it feels like, okay, in the moment of things, sure, pressure gets to you, but then suddenly the your gold laner, you're the one who's the primary damage leader. Be like, I found an opening, let's go, right? And that, yeah, I think that's what makes him stand out as well. And how about you, Greatchen? What are your thoughts and opinions on Savero?
And just to add on what you guys mentioned, his YSS, even though historically, if we're going to look at MPL season 17, it's the YSS gold lane has a low win rate. But when Savera uses it, it's 100% win rate as of the moment. So from that standpoint, all you can see is how he combines Indonesia flavor to the Philippine ecosystem. So even though he came from Indonesia, and we all know that when we talk about the competitions that is currently ongoing for Indonesia, it's more of a brawl type, more of taking team fight initiations. But when he brings that flavor here in the Philippines, just like what we're witnessing right now in MPL Philippines season 17, it's somehow adding to the aggression that we have observed. At first, I'm not sure if I'm one of the people that is excited when he was announced in the Onyx Philippines roster. But I also saw in the comment section that, of course, there are bashers, there are a lot of haters just because he is Indonesian. So a lot of people judge him because of this factor. And of course, for Severo, who is, coming from Indonesia, he is alone when it comes to, having Indonesian here in the boot camp of Onik. That is somehow the pressure that he is feeling. And that is why I am happy to see that even though he is still adjusting to what we have in store for him here in the MPL, I can see that he has this determination, dedication to just prove himself that he too can shine bright. He too can go on for that new identity that we're looking for in a gold lane. And all I can say is as long as Severo keeps on playing, as long as Severo keeps on practicing with Onyx Philippines, then his future is bright for the Philippines.
Yeah. Speaking of like very young talent, he is in fact a very young talent. I believe he is around 18, 19 right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not yet even in his 20s, and that's why there's so much potential to be had. And with regard to the haters and bashers, of course, everyone has them. But then it's nice to see that the pressure hasn't gotten to him because we can still see him. Heck, he was an MVP, game MVP from last week. So it just goes to show that it proves that he deserves to be here. That Onyx knew that what they were doing when they started. Okay, if Keller's going to Indonesia, we have to look for another gold laner, and they chose maybe it's Savero time, right? Onyx time is Savero time because they knew that this talent has a bright future. He has such a big potential. He has such a big potential to grow, especially here with his mechanics because Indonesia is well known for their mechanics. And now if you're adding in the brains with the brawn, you're gonna get a really good player, probably an
Yeah.
S tier gold laner. And I guess before you add your thoughts, Bipoler, there's the I also want to highlight the way that the content that Onyx Philippines makes around Savero. It's really funny.
Yeah.
If you guys could watch
So
it, it's
cute.
it's so fun. With him trying out tusok tusok, which is the Filipino street food, street balls, and then the singing of cannibalismo. So yeah, those are some of the videos you guys gotta watch. So those are my thoughts on Savero as well. I might dive in deeper when we start talking about the teams, but how about you, Bipolar? I saw your face
I want
after. It's like,
I want to add more to that because they for our international viewers as well, right, Miggy? There's been a trend now for MPL season 17 where we put in Filipino
athletes,
athletes
yeah.
into MPL, right? Even special guests. And
Yeah.
sometimes when it's Onyx lucky time, the whole team gets a picture with that specific athlete. And you can see just Savero doing this or doing that. To, and just pointing towards the athlete, which is just so funny because you can definitely see this guy doesn't know what is happening. It's really funny, but you can see that Onyx Philippines is really just taking Savero in pretty nicely just because of even in these kinds of scenarios outside of the game, despite Savero not knowing what's happening around him, there's they're still doing it pretty nice. But I would like to add even more, Miggy, that with the help of Zavero, and just like what you've said before, this guy is 18 years old. They have a high ceiling of mechanical skills and synergies. They're just inconsistent. And if you think about it, inconsistency can be healed or can be paved after a couple of games. So the next couple of games, especially this week and next week, Onyx might be a threat, not just for the people below them, but even for the people above. So everyone should be ready
Ooh,
for Onyx.
exactly. Would you like to add anything else to after what Bipolar said, Greatchen?
Yeah, I would like to highlight that the Onyx Philippines can be a potential poison in the teams right now, just because of this factor that we're talking about. So that's all.
Okay. So, thoughts and opinions on Savero. Positive, negative. Positive? Negative.
Positive.
So,
Positive.
okay, positive.
Yeah.
Positive.
Okay. So there you guys have it. That's Miggy, Bipolar, and Greatchen's thoughts and opinions. Mostly positive on Severo, and we hope for the best for him moving forward because the kid has a lot of potential, and it just goes to show that he's working in the Onyx Philippines system. And now that we're talking about specific players, here we are. We're going to be talking about the MPL Philippines Season 17 team talks. So in this segment of the podcast, we're going to be talking about team play, thoughts on the teams, how they're performing, how the rosters changed. And with that being said, so I guess I'll start it off. I'd like to, I guess on my end, I want to highlight players specifically, not in like one team or two teams. I want to highlight uh, Nova. Nova from AP Bren, right? Am I?
Yep.
Hopefully, I'm not getting it mixed up. So Nova from AP Bren is one of my highlights because he is a very good, very actually not just good. He's a great roam because what I like about how he plays, he's the only one who in the first half to make Marcel work. When Marcel was sitting at 0% win rate, Nova picked up Marcel and proceeded to get two victories out of it. And even before the buff that happens in the that which just happened or has just been integrated in the new patch, he made Marcel look very OP. And then once you saw his gameplay, if you made everyone else is like, why isn't he playing it this way? And suddenly, everyone who was playing Marcel decided to copy how he was playing Marcel. So shout out to Nova is one of the people I want to talk about. And I guess the next highlight I want to mention is Haji. Haji's addition to Team Falcons. A lot of people I that's why I put Haji in my previous videos. If you guys watch that too, do watch it. Uh, if you guys have seen it, I talked about how Haji is a really good addition to Team Falcons because of how aggressive he is or how aggressive his gameplay was. He was he was nicknamed the KDA machine for a reason, and the fact that he was a very aggressive player just kind of allowed him to gel right into the Team Falcons gameplay strategy because they tend to be very aggressive with Flap TC being their vanguard and then everyone else just marching forward. And Haji's play style really fits into that very aggressive gameplay. And all the while they play very aggressive, you have Super Marco, the the bulletproof man, Super Marco being so bulletproof, they can just play so aggressively and they don't get punished for it. And that's why I think Haji is another highlight for me to put in our team talks. And I guess since we kept starting with Bipoler, how about you, Greatchen? What are your thoughts on the teams, on the players?
On my end, if I'm going to highlight players, it would be the ones coming in from MDL. We all know that from Smart Omega, Capitan Linguin, if we're
Yeah.
going to call him that way, is one of the longtime MDL players. And last season, he was actually part of RRQ Kaito from
Ooh.
season 6 of MDL, now entering MPL atmosphere. All I can say is his captain atmosphere also influenced how smart Omega was able to beat, for example, the world champions Aurora Gaming. That is a huge factor, especially coming in from the underdogs who beat the crowd favorites. So all I can say is there is a lot to be expected from Smart Omega. And let's see as we continue on this season on how their performance would be, how would they improve and learn from the experience. Another one would be Teddy, also known as Teddy Cutie during his
Woohoo!
MDL days. So Teddy, he was actually included for Team Liquid and replacing Daiki and Aaron Shiki later on. And all I can say is for Teddy, an example of this would be his favorite Claude. He mentioned that that is his favorite hero and he keeps on using it. That's why for some viewers, we can also see remarks like, "Oh, Teddy is going in from MMR. He keeps on playing it
Yeah.
just to have a title." But if we're going to notice as to why they are also picking out the Claude, it proves to be a complement to their overall team composition. And that's why all I can say is for the playstyle of Teddy, ever since MDL now entering MPL, it really flourishes. It really improves a lot. And I'm really happy on how he was able to be part of Team Liquid.
Yeah.
For me as well, Mickey. I'm sorry to cut you off. I like that Gretchen was highlighting the MDL players here, but before I move on, I think you had to say something there, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, no, it's all good. I was gonna throw it to you actually.
Okay, I caught it immediately,
Yeah,
Mickey. Even
immediately.
before
I
you,
didn't even have to help.
yeah, no problem, Mickey. You know us, the connection right now, the brother connection is really fighting. Even though I just woke up, so Miggy, going back to my thought, right? Even though even though we I want to highlight the top teams right now, I would like to dive deeper than the hells below because I want to look at the struggling teams right now because if you're talking about players from MDL, if you're talking about players that have been in the league so far. I actually wanted to talk about MPD King, Carl Teasy, Severo, and as well as Yue. I actually want to talk about Zaida even more, coming from TNC, because I feel like despite them being a struggling team, you have a player that can make it compact because he can make any draft a possibility of a win just because of his sheer playstyle. I feel like you rarely see a jungler that is not just hungry but also not scared. So if you're looking at a player that wants to enable Benny QT, that can also play with the tempo that is somewhat reminiscent of the past days of Chaknu, you can rely on Zaida to control the map. Plus, guys, come on, Zaida is just an amazing jungler to a point that he can outlevel the heroes or the junglers on the other side of the team, or if not, he can always just level with them or make it an equal playing field once, even if they are stumped in the early game. So, I would like to highlight Zaida from TNC Pro Team. One thing as well is KLVJ from AP Brand, because the return of a veteran that is having that experience from the international scene is something to look out from, because yes, we're talking about international talents becoming a local talent, but why not that local talent that went to an international setting,
Coming
then
home.
came back? So you see the layers from that as well. I thought, you know what, there was a funny thing in mind that when the season started, I was thinking to myself, can't we really just um talk about KLVJ as an international talent now, because people know him even more now, for especially for the newcomers. They know KLVJ as a player from the outside of the Philippines. Now coming in, might as well treat him as just like Severo. So, but he's been pretty good. He's almost, you know, getting there. They just need consistency as well.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna highlight KLVJ as well right after, and I do agree with you. I feel like a lot of people criticize him for not being as mechanically strong as the other XP laners. Because if you're looking at KLVJ, and then you're suddenly looking at Edward Sanford, the mechanics are you
Bursting.
could see that there's a gap. But then the
Yeah.
difference is I think KLVJ fills a role that AP Bren really needed coming to this season. They needed leadership. And a lot of the since we know that a lot of the AP brand players came from MDL, and the ones the ones they used to look up to, their idols, are now suddenly their rivals or their opponents in the Land of Dawn. With the addition of KLVJ, what he adds is not just his macro or his in-game skills or his micro. What he adds, I feel like, is stability and direction for AP Brand. With AP Brand being what it was a group of really talented young players. They needed that leader, they needed that senior to tell them or calm them down. When nerves get the better of them, you could always look back and ask for advice from someone who's been in the pro scene for so long, both locally and internationally. So you have that guidance. You have that sensei, senpai kohai connection, right? And yeah, so those who don't know, that is your senior and your junior connection, and I feel like that's what KLVJ gives AP Brennan. That's why they are able to get this. Yes, he can dictate the map when he's playing his Sora, but I feel like he does a lot more outside the game, especially when it comes to guiding these young, fresh talents. And adding to that, I guess with Team Liquid, a lot of people, even I did, we put them in kind of in the midpoint of the tournament or in the tier list, which we will be making later. Uh, but then with Team Liquids, they just look structurally sound. Like as long as the main four exists, the gold lane, they had like several gold lanes. Though their gold laners are no slouches as well. You had Daiki and you had Teddy. You honestly you can't miss if you play with either or, because these guys are just really good. They're actually insane in the gold lane. And I guess anything else I'd like to highlight would be, of course, we talked about Severo, Aurora. it's it's shaky right now because they're still trying new things, and I feel like it's the new meta sickness because yes, they're playing a new patch. It's still they're still trying to adjust to it, and now more so moving forward because we are entering a new patch yet again this coming Friday, and I wonder how it's gonna be looking like. Anything else you guys want to add before we start ranking and putting up that tier list for us to get comments and bashed?
On my end, generally speaking, for these teams, it seems like season 17 can also be categorized as the adjustment period for them. We all know that due to the recent roster changes, addition of players, and the adjustments when it comes to the meta, it seems like all of the teams are testing the waters out right now, and
Yeah.
whatever works for them, they're going for that direction, and that's what they're following too in terms of getting a lot of points for the group stages here at MPL season 17. So it's more of an experimentation period, and once the experiment already succeeds, then they can already have a strong foundation to base it off from their next few strategies up ahead. So yeah, that's on my end.
For me, Miggy, I feel like that word that Gretchen said was what I was gonna be highlighting as well. The experimentation phase of these teams, especially for Aurora. I feel like a lot of people are shocked, but you shouldn't be shocked if you're watching the games as well. Because you see these like hero picks that are really not in conjunction with one another, especially from the very first few weeks or first few matches of Aurora. But something to point out is that we're bursting with talent now for season 17. That's not the issue anymore. That everyone can play. It's all up to just the synergy and as well as the consistency of these teams. That's why we're seeing Team Liquid once again on top. So that's it for me.
Yeah, it's actually we're gonna be diving into the more gameplay later on when we start discussing the meta because a lot of them, if you guys are just looking at the numbers of the games, it's 2-1, 2-0. You guys have to really watch the game because those 2-0s are like 20-minute, 30-minute games. Mostly,
Yeah.
if not, if you're looking at 2-1s, their chances are their comebacks. There are several games that ended up with a comeback with a backdoor ending with a lot of macro gameplay, and a lot of them were reverse sweeps as well. Though they did lose the first, even though we had majority, or there was a saying that whoever wins the first game, there's momentum, and then they proceed to just 2-0 or they proceed to win the series. But that hasn't been the case the past few games. So if you guys could watch the games, do watch the games. And since we're suddenly diving into the games, before that, we have to go rank them. So this is gonna be Miggy, Bipoler, and Greatchen's season 17 mid-season team tier list. So we're gonna go on to that. First one, so this is gonna be the order since Greatchen is the first. This is your first time on the podcast. Welcome, welcome.
Yeah.
You will be dictating a lot of this. You will be doing the top RG picks and the mid season team rankings as well.
All
So
right.
let's go. You don't have to do it in order if you don't want to say who number one is. Actually, yeah, you don't have to say who number one and number eight is. Let's start with 2 to 7, so we could keep everyone guessing on who your first and last teams are.
All right. For my rank 2, it would be Team Falcons. There. Just because of how they complement each other right now and how strong are they when it comes to micro and macro. And for my number 7, I would say it would be Smart Omega, just because of the addition of Capitan Minguin still adjusting to how MPL is like here.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my 7.
Okay. How about let's run it down actually. So from
All right.
third, fourth, fifth, and sixth as well.
All right. For my third place, I feel like a lot of people will be surprised, but it would be Aurora Gaming.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah, Aurora Gaming. Fourth, Onyx Philippines.
Okay. Fifth.
Then my fifth one would be AP Brand.
AP Bren.
There. And my sixth one is Twisted Minds. I feel
Gretchen,
like
don't tell me number one is TNC.
Ah,
Come
TNC.
on,
Oh, okay. So
I
Gretchen.
feel
guys.
like Bipoler will have another opinion.
Come on, Gretchen.
But
Ah.
I rank them based on statistics, based on how I observed their performance. No biases at all. So I'm sorry.
Team Liquid.
Okay, so it's
Ah,
TNC
come
number one, right?
on. Yes, yes. Let's go, Gretchen.
TNC, and then Team Liquid up top, of
Yeah.
course. So we'll discuss the rankings later on, but how about you, Bipolar? Let's do the same.
Uh,
2 to 7, and then 8 and 1.
okay. I'll put number two Aurora.
Ooh.
I'll put number three. Oh, this is where I struggle at. I was thinking about Falcons or Onyx, but I'll put Falcons number three. Emotionally, I'll put them number four, but we're casters, so I'll put them number three.
Ooh.
Number four, I put Onyx, just like Gretchen. Um, Same for five and six.
Okay.
AP Brand and as well as Twisted Minds. Um, Actually, you know what? I was gonna put number one TNC. I would have, but actually, I'll put Twisted Minds very as smart. No, Twisted Minds below. AP Bren down as well, but put TNC on number five.
Ooh. That's gonna be a conversation for later.
Yeah, that's TNC number five, and then who else is?
You're missing Smart Omega and Team Liquid.
Yeah, Smart Omega on the bottom. I'm gunning out for you, Gretchen. I'm sorry as well. And
It's
then
okay.
Team Liquid number one.
Okay.
No, I'm basing it off with what I'm predicting for the mid season.
Okay. I see it. I see the vision. We're gonna have a conversation later regarding our
Yep.
bottom four. I'm sorry, from fourth to eighth place, but I'll do the same. So right now, with how things are going, I still feel like I do agree with Bipolar. It's gonna be Aurora Gaming over Team Falcons. Right now, it's still not a tried and tested thing. With yes, Haji is a nice fit to Team Falcons, but we are entering a new meta, and
Yeah.
Team Falcons is kind of slow to pick up the patches, so I'll put them there. Onyx Philippines over. This is gonna be a take though.
AP Bren.
I'm thinking AP Brand over Onyx Philippines, but then Onyx Philippines yeah. I'll just put Onyx Philippines here, and then AP Brand is my second. Is my fifth. Sorry, and then moving on. I'm seeing it though. I'm seeing the TNC. I'm gonna put TNC on as my sixth.
One.
As my sixth, and
Okay.
Twisted Minds
Wow.
is gonna be on my seventh, with Smart Omega being my last, and Team Liquid over
Okay.
over everyone else. Okay, so
Yeah.
now that we have our tier list, we can see that we have like for the I guess my question for the top three, I guess, is gonna be for Greatchen. Because Greatchen's the only one that chose Team Falcons over Aurora Gaming for second over third. So I guess I wanna know your thoughts on that.
I actually based it also from the previous interviews that was conducted between Team Falcons and Aurora Gaming. Because if you're going to watch how Aurora Gaming responded, they currently have difficulties when it comes to adjustments. And especially coming in from the pressure being the world champions or getting on the title for M7, a lot of teams are looking at their strategy. They're also looking at their current dynamics. And one thing, I feel like this would be a hot take, is just because of the good coaching staff of Team Falcons, they can actually decode how Aurora Gaming is doing their current strategies and how they rotate. That's why, on my personal opinion, I would rank Team Falcon second just because of that, and how Haji complements Flap, Kyle in their aggression and how they initiate team fights. So that's my personal opinion, and yeah, I respect everyone's opinion, so don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it because they do have Coach Moody, Coach Bren, and Coach Ducky on Team Falcons. They do have a really like beefed up coaching line, and I guess I'm not sure if Bipolar shares the same sentiments as me, but I feel like the reason why Aurora is still in number two for me over Team Falcons is, yes, Greatchen did point out that everyone is playing or analyzing the way Aurora Gaming plays. And I
Yeah.
think that is why they're still a strong contender, or I put them at number two. If they were if they weren't up there, right? If they weren't the ones to beat, why would you have to build a strategy just to take them out, right? So that's why that's my take, that even though Aurora Gaming right now is not performing as like championship caliber, the fact that teams are adjusting their gameplays just to counter the way they play must mean that they are a team to be reckoned with.
Yes.
How about you, Bipolar?
For me, yeah, I see you guys. I see everyone's point where Aurora has that pressure coming in from being world champions. They've been analyzed from their ins and out, but I feel like I'm banking on the next patch where Aurora dominates, because I feel like Falcons will become very linear. Meanwhile, Aurora will become very, very crafty. It will pave the way for you for Yue, right?
Yeah.
For
Yep.
Yue, and as well as Light once again. And I feel like Falcons will bank on Flap, on how he'll adapt towards the patch. So the, you just have to pick on who you really want to root for here. I put Team Liquid on number one because guess what? It's Team Liquid once again. But I see I still share the same sentiments from before, Miggy, from our from our previous episode where I want to see them lose. Um, this is from again, guys, for the people that will be watching this. I have to always explain, and I feel like Gretchen and Miggy knows my take on this, where we all. It's nice to see Team Liquid always being number one, but if people will make them lose, or if people win up against them, that just means the scene or the esport is really thriving and just improving even more. So if Team Liquid keeps their spot, pretty nice. That just means that it was a fluke that they lost from the MCs, or there was really just back end issues, really struggling from outside of the cameras. But nonetheless, if they lose, that just means it's gonna be one hell of an improvement for the scene itself. But for Aurora, yeah, I feel like I'm banking on the patch, and Yu has been playing amazingly. So I feel like he can shift the tides and just put the light once again towards the people of Aurora. For Falcons, it's actually pretty crazy. I would digress them to number four.
Ooh.
Um, because if you take into account, I'm jumping to number four now, Miggy. But
Yeah, yeah.
please entertain please entertain this thought. If you also look at it in a way that we talked beforehand, where the consistency will come into play after this week. So if the adjustment period for Onyx Philippines is done by this week, Saver will have one hell of a game. The inconsistency will be taken out, you know. King Kong will actually adjust just because of the patch. So I feel like I'm really just looking, or my eyes is really looking towards the patch, and that's why that's my one, two, three.
Yeah. I do agree with you. I feel like the reason why, since we're actually gonna move on towards to the fourth place, but we might just since we all agree that okay, Onyx is probably there. I do agree with your sentiments, Bipolar, because with Onyx Philippines, why I put Team Falcons above Onyx Philippines is right now is because their whole team is working. You have a strong
Yeah,
five versus where Onyx Philippines, a lot of their strategies involve just playing around the core four members, and then
yeah,
if needed, they have Severo for late game insurance. So that's
yeah.
been the meta going moving forward, actually, which we're gonna be discussing, or that's what I'm gonna be discussing or talking about later as well. But that's why I put Onyx Philippines in bottom floor. Yes, they are in competition form, or they can be competitive enough to compete against the top three. But right now, I feel like they still need to build around Severo growing because we can't just rely on potential. We have to see results as well. And that's going to be the next thing Onyx Philippines has to work on moving forward. And since we are all in agreement with Onyx Philippines, you guys want to share why you put it there? Because I think we're going to have long conversations about our bottom four.
Yeah.
Um, I'll take it first, Gretchen.
Yeah.
Regarding Onyx, it's Onyx, and I think it's time to break the stigma that they are not top contenders anymore. So Onyx being there, I do see what you're saying, Miggy, before, where you have a team that is fully compact like Falcons, where Onyx just uses Severo as an quote unquote expendable in a way. But once they break that, I feel like there's something better for Onyx Philippines. But yeah, number four is a pretty good spot, and I feel like with everyone agreeing, yeah, I think they might just stay there, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, same sentiments on my end. I feel like just to highlight what you mentioned earlier, Miggy, there is potential, but how can they actually translate it into a result? And that's what I'm currently looking for Onyx Philippines, so that they can actually beat our top three contenders, which, by the way, are really strong ones, like Team Liquid, Team Falcons, Aurora Gaming. They already have consistency and the synchronizations, and that's why I feel like my top three teams, regardless if it would change from one to three or who would be at the top, will remain the same just because of that factor.
Yeah, it's the whole Onyx is as that's how competitive I guess. I guess how competitive the MPL Philippines pro scene looks like. You guys might just be seeing it's first, second, third, fourth place, but you guys don't see how close the gaps are in between them. It's like it's 1/2, 2/3, 3/4. It's not really a matter of first place, second place, third place, and then bottom
Yeah.
is fourth. These guys are super close to each other. That's why it's so hard that even though we actually have a solid top four. It might be just a movement around here and there, but even then, we casters, we talents understand that the gaps between them, the skill level, it's not that far from each other. But moving on from the top four, we're gonna be talking about our bottom fours, and a lot of us have actually. I don't think, yeah, none of us agreed with any of the rankings in 5, 6, 7, and 8
Yeah.
because okay, so let's talk about our fifth ranks, I guess. So, Bipolar, you chose TNC as your fifth. So, what are your thoughts on why TNC is in that fifth place?
Surprise, surprise! I put the NC in a very comfortable place. This is just me being hopeful, honestly. Because I love TNC even for the past season, just because of how fast and how surprising they've been. They've been always number eight. They've been always not there for the playoffs, but I feel like they have a system now. They have a system that they want to bank on, but they're a little bit scared on how they want to pull it off, just because they don't want to. They want every player to shine every time, but number five, it's a bit of a stretch. I will be honest, especially if AP Bren is my number six, but I feel like TNC has something cooking, and if Zaida can really outperform these players and we have a Chaknu that is, you know, still has that aggressive side, but knows how to play defensively even more now. They might have it locked on for number 5. But there's always a mid laner situation for me, Mickey, with
Yeah,
TNC. That's the problem.
I do
That's
agree.
why
Agree.
it's always a that it's always a mid laner problem. I don't want to point fingers because my boss might be saying, "Hey, hey." Uh, but yeah, we never know, right? If TNC does prevail here, you will all give me 100 pesos. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh my gosh.
No, 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 no.
No? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But like, I do agree with you with the whole TNC thing. That's why actually put them a bit higher as well. And
Yeah.
you mentioned that TNC was, it's just they need to step up. I still see them having the potential to step up because they have really good players. And I guess
Yeah.
that's why I put them on my sixth rank as well. And I feel like they still have a lot more time to talk about. So I guess we're not, rather I guess we're looking at this differently. So we'll shift the format for our bottom four. It's, I guess, since we're talking about TNC, you put them in fifth place because of that. So we'll talk individually per team because we're gonna be talking about a whole bunch of them, but we are coming from different perspectives. So with
Okay.
TNC for Bipoler, it's they are a strong competitor, but they have the potential to hit the ground running, but it's just a matter of hitting that ground running, indeed. So on my end, with numbers, why I put TNC as number 6 is because I see it. I see the vision that Bipolar has. Right now, they're in the bottom half or the bottom frag when it comes to our points or tracking. But much like the Phoenix Army, what happens when the Phoenix dies? It rises from the
It
ashes.
rises again.
Yes, sir. And that's why I put
Yes.
TNC there in number 6. Because I feel like, though, yes, AP Brand still has a leg up, but we're not talking about them right now. TNC a has that something in them, I feel. I do agree that the mid lane situation has to be managed because right now they put in Stone. A lot of people were thinking that, okay, Stone is going to be the primary mid laner because that's what was mentioned.
Yeah.
That's why they had that whole teaser reveal, the really funny one. If you
Yeah.
guys have watched it, watch it. But uh, I feel like they have to understand or decide which mid laner they have to compete with or commit with because Lancey and Storm they play very differently, and if you keep giving it like okay, I'm gonna play Storm here, I'm gonna play Lancey here, you're not gonna be able to build that strategy or that game plan revolving around one specific player because you guys are always changing in and out of your teams. So that's why I feel like once they solve that, chances are they're gonna start winning games. They're gonna elevate their gameplay once they find the way to commit to that specific lineup. And I guess that's my thoughts. How about you, Greatchen? You put them at last. We want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I do have a different perspective to it because I actually have a difficult time ranking these teams, especially for the bottom four. And the criteria that I set was the way that they take on mid early game control. So that would be only my factor as to why I rank them fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, because it's really difficult to rank these teams. It's really subjective on my end, and I hope they can prove us wrong with what we're going to say. But on my case, as to why I put the TNC Pro team in the last place, apart from the mid duo connection that we're expecting coming in from either Lancy and Chaknu, I also wanted to highlight Benny Cutie because as of his performance towards the previous weeks, the Benny Cutie that I know from the previous season is not truly felt for season 17. I feel like the storm that I'm waiting for is not felt as of the moment, and that is want I want for TNC Pro Team to rise above it. So rise from the ashes, as what we're going to call it, just
Okay.
because Benny Cutie needs to step up a lot to really catch up when it comes to the aggressions from the goal laners. And for the others, I would say as to why AP Brand Twisted Minds Smart Omega are placed that way, it's because of how I see Mingwing Perxiba, Sean, Kaloy, Aqua Nova being connected and on sync with one another. And if you also watch the MDL, just like I would always say, whoever controls the early game has that winning condition to have a higher chance to secure the victory. And yeah, that's solely my criteria as to why I place them on this certain numbers. But for our viewers, just to take note, these are only our personal subjective ranking. It doesn't reflect a lot. So hopefully you can also let us know in the comment section what are your rankings are. So yeah, that's on my
Yeah.
end.
I like Rachel's logic why she put TNC in bottom eight, because it's a challenge for them, right, Rachel? Like you're
Yeah.
putting them
Yeah.
there because you want to see, okay, we put them on tops. We put Bipolar, and I put TNC in 5 and 6 because there's the potential there. But Greatchen's like, I know there's potential, but I'm putting you in bottom eight, in number eight, because I know you can do better. Because I do
Yeah.
agree with
Yeah.
Benny Cutie. Bagyong Benny has not been felt. It was more like a low pressure area. Has it been? Maybe it's because of
It's just
the
been a
chemistry.
wind.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was just enough to blow the wind chimes, but not blow the house down. So that's why I feel
Yep.
like that's great thinking there by Greatchen, that she was like, number eight there is a challenge, not a ranking. Or you're not there.
Yes.
I didn't put you there because you're gonna stay there. I put you there because I know you could get above it.
Yep. That's correct.
Yeah.
Great one, Biggie.
Okay, moving on. I guess the other one that's in our top 5 and 6 is AP Bren. We all agree. So I guess I'll start things off with, I feel like this team, AP Bren, has just been the team. If you wanted to understand the process or system of trusting the process, it would be AP Bren. They made
Yeah.
minimal to no changes to their rosters. It's just been a matter of grinding it out through the seasons, and you saw incremental improvements where they were just, before they weren't winning any games. They would get one game off a really strong team. Next season, they start doing better, and now they've done even better, especially now that our young guns have matured and they now have a senior KLVJ being put there. And I feel like that's what gave the team that edge, that direction. That's why I've put them in number 5. So, anyone else's thoughts on AP Brand? I guess.
I feel like if you're talking about the entirety of AP brand here, you also cannot disguise the fact that KLVG is not alone in this team. KLVJ has that veteran status, but he can also rely on James Banks to carry himself towards their own victory. So if you're talking about KLVJ, becoming not really an explosive kind of explainer like Sanford, right? And like the other explainers, right now for MPL, KLVJ is just reliable in a sense where James Banks can do whatever he pleases. So AP Bren with their consistent lineup, but with the help of KLVJ, um, yeah, it's really just trust the process, right, Miggy? Because um it all ends up to these four players on how can they complement KLVJ's tempo. So AP Bren, I would like to see them play better. So number 6 would be a good spot for them for me.
Yeah. How about you, Gretchen?
Just to add on what was already mentioned, I really like Aqua's mid lanes right now. It's very, it complements what AP Bren wants to do in a team fight, but in terms of the macro perspective, I feel like that's what the AP Bren has to further improve on if they want to continue on grinding for a higher spot in our mid-season rankings, because it's already there. the connection, the way they show us through the matches, everything that they need is already there. It's a matter of how can they actually utilize these ingredients to make the recipe flourish, to make the recipe more yummy, I would say, if we're going to use an analogy.
Yeah.
Yes, with the right amount of, if they say too many cooks spoil the broth, with the right amount you have the perfect recipe.
Yeah.
And I think that's what AP brand has. They're cooking something up, and I feel like they already have the right people to be cooking it, and they have the right ingredients to make it work. And I guess since we've discussed our 5 6, now we're moving on to our last two teams, which is Twisted Minds and Smart Omega. I guess Greatchen, you could start us off because you put in Twisted Minds in number 6. Yes, they did come from MDL. There might be
Yeah.
you really seen these guys grow, so you were ready as a MDL caster. You've seen Twisted Minds grow into who they are now, and I guess that's why I want to know your thoughts why you put them in number 6.
The reason as to why I have put them in number 6 is they're actually having a difficult time adjusting to not the meta but the level of competition, the way that MPL Philippines is currently ongoing, just because of the present teams with like the Team Liquid, Team Falcons, it's so much higher compared to what they are used to. And now, as they go here, I feel like they still need to catch up with a lot of stuff in order for them to solve their current issues. Because all I can say is for Sean, Kaloy, Nosha, Lance too, they had a great start when it comes to MDL. But what about going in one step higher to MPL? That is what I want to feel every time I watch Twisted Minds compete. And I feel like they're going in the good direction just because Coach Bonshan is currently with them. So it will just take some time to simmer it down. And I feel like we're going to have a good Twisted Minds in the future. So it's a matter of time before they really adjust to MPL. So that's it for my end for Twisted Minds. I will say my sentiments later on for Smart Omega.
Okay. How about you, Bipolar?
For me, I feel like Twisted Minds, with them being on my number 7, there's potential, but I feel like if you think about it, I was really happy when Haji was in the team. I'm not giving a lot of like bad blood towards Twisted Minds roster right now, but I feel like their play style, it really, it's a big difference for the players on top of them. Disregard TNC, right? But put look at the players from number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Their play style coming in to MPL Philippines have been so concrete that if you look at Twisted Minds, it really doesn't feel the same. Even if they use the same lineup, if they have the same draft, or they have somewhat of a meta draft that can battle all throughout up against these four top teams, it really feels different. Um, One thing that I do like again is Sean in the middle lane, right? Sean is an amazing player that I feel like this is why I put them even more on number 7, because Sean and the rest of this team has this like peak that hasn't been reached yet. So if they unlock it, if they unlock that peak, esports player, let's fight this, Twisted Minds is number 1, they might rank up even higher. But I feel like it's so far away from that right now that Twisted Minds is not gonna be there. MP the King is also one player to look out for, but I feel like the potential of these 5 players to go all the way is still not unlocked. That's why I put them on number 7.
Yeah. I do agree with you actually, Bipolar. And I feel like since you mentioned the peak, I feel the same. Honestly, it's an MDL team, or you have MDL players who were built to play whatever hero you give them. That's why that they use
Yeah,
the global badge. Like whatever you give them, they'll know how to play it. And you have Coach Bonchan with his really off meta drafts, his very unique drafts. And that's a match made in heaven. You have a coach who will try out and experiment new things with you, and you have players who can play whatever you tell them to play. But I feel like this
yeah,
is when there's also a con to it because this is when understanding the patch matters. Because if Coach Bonchan can come up with all of these unorthodox picks, but if the players understand the meta differently, since they're the ones who experience it, they're the ones who play the ranked games to practice and learn these things. There, if there's that slight disconnect, the whole plan will end up not working because yes, you can, for example, Benedetta Gold. We've seen Benedetta Gold play this season, and we saw that the way they play it is as a side lane pusher. But then, if you as the coach talks or sees Benedetta as a side lane pusher, your job is to make sure that the gold lane is not gonna be having a fun early game. You're gonna make sure that you're always pressuring the sides. But if your players see Benedetta as an assassin type or a lane bully, their
Yeah.
priority is to be part of team fight. Their priority is gonna be to engage and pick off the gold laner, the enemy gold laner. So what's gonna happen is there's gonna be that disconnect. So suddenly, the game plan that's supposed to be done to open up or figure out the way to close the game is suddenly disconnected with each other because the coach says one thing or thinks one thing, the player executes in another way. So when you have a team that could play any hero and a coach that can draft any draft, it's gonna be a matter of finding that identity or similar vision to make sure that they could make the draft work. And I think that's what's happening with Twisted Minds right now. Especially moving forward to a new patch, they're gonna have to learn it a new way. You're gonna have coaches understand it differently from the players, and if you guys draft a certain way, it's gonna really be affected. And that's why I put them in Twisted Minds moving forward. Twisted Minds in number 7 moving forward. And since we've all shared our sentiments on them, last but certainly not the least, it's been a running thing. Smart Omega 7th, 8th place. So, Bipoler, care to start us off?
Me, uh, Smart Omega, I would coming into this has been somewhat of a threat, but with their playstyle being so hyper aggressive in a way that it's always risky, is such a double-edged sword, in my opinion. To a point that you always rely on your plays giving you a win. That when you don't win that fight, especially for Smart Omega, you can see a big slope of downhill actions coming in for them because you don't get the advantage that they want in these like early game fights and in these mid game fights which means the opposing team will always set the tempo. It's good if they accomplish that strat where you will play our game, but if we cannot play that, we're playing your game. So it's a big risk. It's like they don't have a middle ground every time for these fights. They don't have a middle ground when they're fighting. That's why I put them on number 8 because it's always so risky. Ryzen is such a great player, but again, he thrives off that high risk, high reward gameplay where if that doesn't really play well, they don't have a backup plan. That's what I feel like for Smart Omega. So that's why I put them on number 8. I would like to put number TNC there as well, but they have this like mindset that we have to risk it all the way. Um, but you can only go so far. You always have to have a plan B, plan C, plan D, and I don't see that from Smart Omega. That's why I put them on number 8.
Yeah, I do agree with you with that, Bipolar. And I feel like if we were talking about how linear certain teams are when it comes to their win conditions or the way they play, I feel like Smart Omega fits that mold pretty well. That's why I put them in 8.
Yeah,
They do go with the all or nothings. They do the either you go 10-0 or 0-10, right? But then what
yeah,
happens is the tendency is they can do it one time, and then suddenly everyone knows how they're gonna play it. So suddenly everything else is gonna be a 0-10. And I feel like that's what's happening with Smart Omega. If they don't open up or experiment on new play styles or new game strategies, they're gonna be left in the dust because Smart Omega needs to pick up the pace. They have to be more versatile as a team, and yeah, everyone knows that if there's only one dimension to your gameplay, one dimension to your team, it's a lot easier to solve you because they just have to look at one point and they already know everything. And I feel like that's why I put Smart Omega there. They have the opportunity or the chance to do better and become better, but they have to solve that composition, that gameplay aspect internally before they can move forward.
Yeah.
And moving on to you, Greatchen, number 7. Why did you put them above TNC?
Um, uh, it's mostly because we're talking about mid-season right now. If we're going to compare how Smart Omega started off season 17, yes, admittedly it was a bit rough. It wasn't synchronized that just yet. But since we're at the mid-season, all I can say is for Smart Omega, they are strong contenders when it comes to macro trades and early game control. An example of that would be their matchup against AP Bren, wherein Mingwin's playstyle when it comes to the Eve is so overwhelming to the point that AP Bren will have no choice but to retreat and not get a certain objective. But for Smart Omega, their issue currently right now is how to finish the game. Yes,
Yes.
you have a good start, but what about finishing it? So that's the issue that you're currently facing right now. And all I can say is there is a lot of improvements, especially when it comes to Perxiva having that knowledge of Team Liquid, since he also came from that organization. And I also like, if we're also going to highlight another thing, it would be Netsuki's Hanabi, since he is the one who actually started it in the first place. The Hanabi of Netsuki, and that goes to show how Smart Omega is currently adjusting to the current meta. They know how to play it, but it's more about finishing the game off in the first place. So hopefully in the upcoming weeks ahead, we're going to see a lot of improvements on their side. And that is actually my wish for all of the teams, mostly improving based on their experience. And I can't wait to see them grow in this season.
Yeah, I think a lot of the actually I like the point you brought up, which we'll probably discuss later on in the meta discussion. A lot of the bottom teams, the bottom 4 teams, have an issue with closing out games. And I don't want to spoil the next topic, but yeah, I guess we've heard all of our thoughts on the mid-season team rankings. And again, for the ones viewing, you guys could see it on screen. But for the ones listening, for Greatchen, number 1 is Team Liquid. Next is Team Falcons, Aurora Gaming, Onyx Philippines, AP Bren, Twisted Minds, Smart Omega, and lastly TNC. While for Bipoler, it's Team Liquid, Aurora Gaming, Team Falcons, Onyx Philippines, TNC, AP Brand, Twisted Minds, and last is Smart Omega. And as for me, Team Liquid, Aurora Gaming, Team Falcons, Onyx Philippines, AP Brand, TNC, Twisted Minds, and Smart Omega. If you guys haven't seen this, or you guys don't have to scrub through the video to see this. This will be posted on our socials, so we will drop down our socials in the description box down below, and we will talk about that later on. And that's it. That's our mid-season rankings. And moving on, we're gonna be talking about the next one because we have been sprinkling it in during our podcast, and that is MPL Philippines meta discussion. So you guys have 3 analysts right here. You got me, Greatchen, and Bipoler. We are casters, but we tend to delve into the analyst aspect of things. And on my end, I guess to start things off, to get the ball rolling, the biggest thing or biggest meta discuss topic I want to discuss is the way macro is played.
Yeah.
Why I feel like Onyx Philippines looks so strong. Why I feel like Team Liquid feels so strong right now, even though they changed their gold laners, is because a lot of the meta or macro movements involve the idea or concept of 4-1. So you have your strong core 4 members, which are your mid, jungle, EXP, and your roam. They're the ones who provide the early game pressure. Liquid has been doing it from way back, but it's now just every team has learned to adapt it into their game strategies, wherein the main 4 will go around much like objectives, taking out the lanes. Basically, they're the ones who are in charge of early game to mid game, and then they make sure they can provide space for the gold laner. And almost all the teams have implemented this in their gameplay strats. If you guys watch their matches, a lot of Onyx gameplay looks like this because Severo is they are still slowly integrating Severo into their structure, their system, and all the while for Liquid as well, it just does not seem as much, or it's not as noticeable because Daiki and Teddy could hold their own in their lane in the early game. So that is the most apparent gameplay strategy I've seen in MPL, which is the 4-1. How about you guys? Starting things off, let's go Bipoler. What are your thoughts since you have been restreaming the MPL?
It's also the same. It's been a macro kind of play style for all of the teams right now. It's more of like objective placed, objective taking for all of these teams. It's always get pressure on mid, take out the turrets every time other turrets. Whoever I feel like though, I want to hear your thoughts in this as well. The turtle now doesn't really matter for these teams. It just gives you a bit of a leeway for a couple of minutes, and then it's back to macro, back to another dance where I call it's the vision dance because it relies a lot on these roamers and these mid laners on how will they rotate, and that also connects to the macro of things in the world of MLBB. If these mid laners and roamers always rotate, it provides one of these lanes to keep on pushing and getting these turrets slowly but surely. So it's not about it's all about macro, but it's also all about objectives. But we have to disregard the turtles because after the turtles, we finally see the bigger threat for these teams. It's always the Lord. So um, I do agree with you, Miggy, that it's been also a 4-1 macro every time. Utilize these side lanes and utilize pushes every time. And one thing to point out as well is the draft itself. It's not assassin meta. It's not utility jungler meta anymore. I feel like it's been more teams have been more open to utilize a mix of both worlds. And that's what's amazing about MPL right now. You can get away with drafts that are so out of the blue. That's why I feel like Twisted Minds also has a possibility of ranking higher than what we've prospected them to be. Just because there's a lot of breathing space right now for the meta. Yes, it's been centric. Yes, we see the same kind of heroes. I'm so pissed off that Harley is still in the meta, but it's fun to see because you don't see these heroes for a very long time now. Yes, it's been repetitive, but right, you see Carrie, you see Harley again, you see the utilization of Marcel, not really those brusco types of tanks that are really in set plays. That's why I have a new term for the meta. There's a vision dance as well because vision is such a big meta changer right now. Whoever has the biggest vision can also dictate the game. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I guess in terms of I guess to before we get to Greatchen's thoughts, just to answer what you regarding the turtle fights, they do what actually matters is the post turtle fight now.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of the junglers have learned to because of the hero pool in the jungle lane, in the jungle position, a lot of them tend to prioritize invading the opponent jungles. So
Yeah.
they want to choke out the opponent's jungler for farm. Specifically, an example would be Leomord. If you start choking Leomord out of farm, they basically you shut him down already, moving on from early game to mid game. So when the turtle fight happens, it's really a choice if you're gonna turtle dance or not. Because if you don't take the turtle, you could invade your opponent's jungle. You could take a buff from him, and then that's when you start going about how do you address the post turtle dance. And I do agree with you as well with the vision dance, and it has a lot to do with the types of roamers we have. Yes, we the Brusco or the tanky boys are gone or not as apparent now, but it's because they've been replaced by very mobile tanky heroes as well. You're looking at the matchup, the classic matchup of Hilda versus Khalid, which are two tanky heroes, but they're not as tanky as Gatot or Hylos, but the vision they provide, the mobility they provide, is what makes them so good in the meta. And all the while, adding to that, Marcel is slowly gonna be introduced into the meta, I believe, because of that. Because they could keep up with the pace of these two heroes, albeit he's not as tanky, but the fact that he has access to several crowd control capabilities, it's what's gonna put him and drive him into the map. So that's my take on the turtle. I do agree it's not as important as before, but what's more important now is what happens after or during, because player teams tend to just, okay, are we gonna fight for the Lord? Yes, no. If it's a no, okay, I'll start invading. I'll start trying to play for myself. The jungler's gonna play selfishly, rack up the gold, and invade the gold lane, because if it's not expanding rivers, the gold laner is going to be left alone farming in their lane. And if you have no vision of the jungler, chances are you know that the gold lane is going to get got. So that's my take. I guess. How about you, Greatchen?
Welcome
Yes. Okay.
back.
I was out of there for a while, but we're back at it again. So
Mm-hmm.
I will cut that in post credit. But so which part did you guys lose me?
You were at the Vision game.
Okay.
Uh, for the meta, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess for the vision game, I mentioned the turtle, right? The post turtle is what's
Yep.
important.
Yep, 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 yep,
The
yep, yep.
viewers are probably gonna see this. You guys will probably see it in post cred, but for you guys as well, the vision game is now very apparent because of the hero choices that are being picked. Khalid and Hilda are
Yeah,
very in demand right now because they are tanky heroes and they provide mobility, so they can just
yeah,
be pressuring around the map. And yes, the vision game is very key. And I feel like Marcel's gonna slowly be introduced because he is one of the heroes that could actually keep up with the pace of those two heroes.
yeah.
And I guess moving forward, how about you, Greatchen? What are your thoughts on what Bipoler posed as a question for us about the turtle?
Yeah. Yeah, on my case, yes, turtles are important because it gives you additional resources, EXP, and etc. But what I would like to highlight is the pre-turtle setups and post-turtle punish are the most crucial things that you can do in order to snowball. So let's start things off by talking about the pre-turtle setups. So it mostly boils down to your drafting on how you can win lanes and how your EXP mid lane, gold lane can actually win. An example of this is if we're going to highlight something, it would be the fighter gold lanes in the expanding river. Since we all know expanding river provides mobility and fighters their tendency has is a little mobility lang. So they mostly utilize the expanding rivers to contribute to a turtle fight.
Yeah.
And another one is every time there's a team fight initiated before the turtle started, the tendency is the one who lost that team fight doesn't have that advantage point to secure their positions and get the turtle. And that's where we see things start rolling over for the other side, and the snowball potential of the other team continuously increases as they continuously also pick off their respective opponent. And all I can say is that's what we're usually going to see when we talk about early games, because that is what's evident here in MPL Philippines Season 17. We're in early games. Yes, we already know who will dictate the tempo, who will dictate the game just by solely looking at it. But the problem is when we talk about the late game, things start to go on spiral. And that's what I want to highlight when it comes to the previous points that was mentioned, the Lord Dance. Because Yes, the Lord may be important, but what about the initiations that will happen within that area? That is it's also important to take note of. And you will also notice how during the drafting stage, they will also um follow that rhythm, follow that tempo, and the balance between the early game and late game control can also be evident, can also be felt during those segments. And with that, that's mostly my summary when it comes to the meta discussion, the plus points when it comes to the four different types of maps that we're currently implementing, and the front to dive that we're also talking about, front to back rather, when it comes to the compositions.
Yeah. I guess before we close this whole part off and move on to the next segment, you mentioned, Gretchen, you mentioned a while ago about how teams are having a hard time closing out the game. So I think this is also a big part of why this meta exists. We have seen the return of artillery mages, a lot of AOE spells. Big spells have been capitalized or maximized in our meta, and I feel like that's why closing the game is a lot harder. So I guess my question for you is, or even you, Bipolar, I extend it to you as well. You guys have seen and watched it. We've seen comebacks. Uh, we've seen comebacks, sudden changes, or either we rarely see any big stomps. Why do you think that is? Because what is making it so hard for teams to close out the games?
One reason that I can think of right now would be their positioning. Some teams tend to overextend what their capacity is. They're going to bushes that is not maintained accordingly or not checked. And that's the problem because what if that bush that you're walking through has a lot of players, has a lot of enemies, like five of them are there. So they can initiate a pick off type of play style. And that would be one member down for a team. And losing one, even just one member being lost to a team fight is truly detrimental for the late game because we all know, we also say that every time that the death timer is appearing there, you can already watch one reel just because how long it is. And having no presence at all in the span of 60 seconds, for example, really means a lot in terms of taking control of the map. And that is what teams have to be careful about every time we talk about the late game. The discipline of the players would also be tested accordingly because you can also see how they decide things, how they also go for directions that may take us by surprise, but it actually works on their case. So, yeah, that's it on my end.
Okay. How about you, Bipolar?
For me, it's really different in my eyes because after watching these games, I feel like it's always timing for these teams, and as well as decision making in these like big fights where you have to dance the Lord, where you have to um reset the turtle every time. Because in my eyes, when I was looking at the games, there's always that battle for for these roamers to look at the opposite bushes, but one thing that they lack on is whoever wants to go first. And sometimes that really doesn't matter because you can see the decision making of these roamers like, should I go in? Is my team ready? Is my team behind me? And sometimes I feel like there's these fights where the roamers and as well as the mid laners go first every time, but it's always a big risk. And this is actually very hypocritical because I was talking about a team that is always high risk, high reward, but is I put them very very low. But I feel like yeah, they had to just decide. They have to find the perfect timing every time, and since it always relies these roamers to get the vision, that it's very hard to make a decision. That's why it's very hard to close out these games because it always prolongs. So there's a lot of pressure for roamers, I feel like as well, because it relies on them to start of a fight to actually close off the game. So yeah, that's my take on.
Yeah, I guess My take is gonna be a bit of a mix of both of you guys' thoughts because I feel like it's a patience game because we know that these players, they tend to get antsy, especially let's say your Lord fights end up being 3 minutes long. They start worrying about their lanes being pushed, especially if this is moving on to the late game. Sometimes they get an itchy trigger finger wherein they feel like the game is endable, but
Mhm.
it turns out it's not, and then they suddenly get wiped because they try to force the issue or force the matter at hand. So I feel like it's a mix of both because I feel like they have to know the timing to play risky, and they also should know the timing of when to wait. So it's really about having that
Yeah.
discipline, having that patience, because if you're in the lead, it's not like you're gonna try to gamble a lot more just to try to risk it to end it quicker when you already have the upper hand. So you could play it pace with the proper pacing. So I feel like that's gonna be my take on why teams are having a hard time closing the game because I feel like they aren't hitting the right timings. They're playing very impatient. So it's just a matter of finding the that middle ground again, just so that they could make it work. And those
And if I
are
could,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
sorry, if
yeah,
I
sorry,
could
sorry.
add one thing to it, it's if we're going to highlight patience, decision making, I would also like to highlight the minion flows because
Ooh,
sometimes there are teams that do not notice the long lanes. And when we
Yeah.
talk about the long lanes, it's the opposite
yeah,
of where the Lord is. And I feel like that's one tiny detail that makes up a whole when it comes to late games because every time there's a pressure to that long lane, there is always one member who should respond to it. And of course, we all know minions also provide vision. And when they spot that, oh, for example, Suyo is there at the top lane, we can go ahead and get the Lord. So that's where teamfight initiation starts in Lord dances that we're going to call it. And it's either winning or losing it that makes a whole difference to what the outcome of the game would be. So yeah, that's my additional thoughts to what was mentioned.
yeah. I guess anything else to add bipolar because that is something that actually triggers the Lord dance if they see vision on the
Yeah.
damage dealer, right?
Mm-mm.
I guess even just adding more to that thought, right? That's where really decision making comes into play, right, Gretchen? Because you have
Yeah.
to choose on whether to start off the fight or you have to really just respond to that aggression. And sometimes it really does matter in one decision for these teams because most of it is always correlated to what do you have to do? You do have to prolong the game. That just requires even more patience. So yeah, I feel like all of our thoughts really does just jive with one another. So yeah, I think we just they just have to really know how to decide even better because at the end of the day, whoever makes the first move will either make it or break it.
Yes, exactly. Exactamundo. And with that being said, that is our MPL PH season 17 mid-season meta discussion. And of course, we're going to be ending it off with the last thing. Of course, we're not just talking about MPL here. We're going to be talking about how to get those dubskis in your RG games. And of course,
Ooh.
it's going to be our top 3 RG picks for each role. And to start things off, of course, first ever guest reveal is Greatchen. Greatchen will start us off. So we'll start it off with our gold lane. Who are your top 3 picks? It doesn't have to be by rank. Okay, so it's
Yeah,
not by
it's
rank.
okay.
So top 3 for gold lane.
Okay. Maybe I can explain it later so that it would be concise and of course already grouped
Yeah,
accordingly. But my top three gold laners is of course Freya,
Freya,
pretty scary, and Claude,
Claude,
and lastly would be Carrie.
Carry.
So
Okay,
those are my top three gold laners. For jungle, I would have Suyo, Harley, and Leomord.
ooh,
Hmm.
For EXP, it would be Sora, Lapu Lapu, and Alice. Even though I want to add more to the EXP, but
It's such
never
a big
mind.
hero pool. It's such a wide hero pool right now in the
Yeah,
meta.
I know. For the mid lane, Zushin, Valentina, and Eve.
Ooh.
And lastly, I had a difficult time here, but I would still go for Khalid. Um, it's such a difficult decision to make, but I would go for
She
Glue.
knows the struggle now.
She knows, she
Ooh.
knows.
and
Oh, she knows the struggle, bro.
and Hildar Marcel.
Only one, only one.
Only one, only one.
I'll go for Hilda.
Okay, care to explain?
All right, I'll start things off by explaining the gold lane. For gold lane, the reason as to why Freya would be my top one actually is apart from her being banned out continuously in not only MPL but also MDL, we can already see how fighter gold lanes flourishes with a Freya pick. The way Freya can control early game and contribute to a micro and macro perspective really means a lot to get that winning condition. And for my top two, which are Claude and Carry, they can actually go against a Frey, especially highlighting Carry here. They can go for that. They can go against a fighter gold lane, and the reason as to why these two are my top two is because every time we hit the late game mark, Freya, we all know we can already pick her off. But what about the damage potential of a Claude and a Carry? It can really upscale towards a late game. So that would be the insurance of the team to have that damage output in those times. Moving on towards the jungler, Suyo, Harley, Leomord. They are the three heroes that can get the early game control. And we all know that they can also upscale. They can also have an amplify for the damage output, especially when they get a snowball. So that's the trend that I'm seeing right now towards the jungler, and especially highlighting the Suyo Sky Piercer. We all know Sky Piercer stacks, and when the goal of your jungler is to get as many kills as you can, then it would be difficult for your opponent to match up with that damage. So that's for my jungler. And moving on to the EXP, Sora, Lapu Lapu, Alice. The reason as to why I had a difficult time here is because I also wanted to see our lot of phobias
Yeah.
for the top three, but I can only choose three, so I would choose them. So for Sora, Lapu, and Alice, they can be a frontliner. They can strengthen your frontliners in every teamfight initiations. And at the same time, they also have setups. The shifting skies of Sora can initiate deal damage Lapu Lapu with that previous fighter and flicker in to penetrate the backline, and Alice with those throne of ruins that can limit or hinder your enemy's movements. So those are the things that we're looking for in an EXP right now. That addition to that front line defenses, if I would call it, so that your backline will not be penetrated easily. So yeah, that's my EXP. Moving on to the mid lane, Zushin, Valentina, Eve. The reason as to why I included Valentina here is because of the Sora. Sora and Valentina can be highly contested not only for the EXP matchup, but you can also put Valentina in the mid lane. So that's a flexi hero that you can play for the mind games. And looking at the matchup between Sora EXP, Valentina EXP is Valentina can easily poke out a Sora in the early game. That would have a difficult time for Sora to scale up. And that's why I put her in the mid lane because that's how adjustable she is when it comes to the meta. And of course, Zushin, when it comes to that Lantern Crimson Beacon, to only have that little airborne that would make a difference for pickoffs. And Eve, so that you can do a front to back type of initiation or what we call the slow dive for that area control. And of course, last but not the least, the roamer. Oh no, these are my top three, even though I have more, just solely because highlighting what a Khalid, Glue, and Hilda can do in initiations. So for Khalid and Hilda, they are the same mechanics, but of course, they have their respective strengths in different heroes. So they can do early game aggression, invade jungle, get vision, but when you counter them against the glue, the only thing that he can do is continuously poke out a Khalid and a Hilda to directly counter them from those threats. And that's why these are my top three roamers right now. So yeah, thank you for listening to my TED Talk. That's a very long one, but thank you.
It's very insightful actually, because a lot of these chances are we're gonna have like very similar picks as well, but that is that is more or less we're gonna have very similar picks. I feel
Yeah.
so. On to the next bipolar. Your picks.
Okay. For me, it's time to get spicy once again. Notorious spicy picker in terms of RG picks. I'll put Harit number one.
Okay.
I'll put Freya number two. And then I'll put Carrie number three. I'll just copy how Gretchen does it. I'll just explain it later on. For jungle, I'll put Suyu as well. Take away the Harley and put Fredrin in there, Biggie.
Ooh.
Take away that Harley and as well as the Leomord, just because it's always been there. For EXP though, this is where something we might do something might
Ooh.
have something different. I'll no actually mid as well. I'll put Sora no Lapu Lapu number one. Okay, Lapu Lapu number
Lapu
one.
lapu.
Oh wait. Oh, I forgot about Guinevere Jungle.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
that's why
sir.
I have a difficult time too.
Oh yeah,
It's gonna be
I hate
hard.
I hate putting playing up against a Leomord, but it's okay. That's better. I'll put Sora number two. We
Okay.
might just have the same EXPs here. But oh yeah, I forgot. Uranus for EXP.
Mm.
Because that's been one hell of a player, one hell of a thing to play up against. Mid, this is where you know me, Mickey, mid and Rome. This is where we have very different play. I'll put Lilia number one.
Ooh. Okay. Spicy. Spicy.
I'll put Zetya number two. Actually, can you switch them around? I'll put Lilia number two, yeah, and then Zetya, and then Zushin on number three. There you go. For Rome, I'll put Khalid number one, Grok number two, and then Hilda number three. There you go. Okay.
Ooh.
I mean, it's kind of the same nonetheless. But for gold, I feel like if you have great mechanical skill, you should pick Harith. You should pick Harith. Just because it's so untouchable, man, in these fights. Zaman Force is a one hell of an ultimate to dominate fights. Plus, late game wise, it scales pretty well. My trend for gold lane right now is to play for late game, or at least secure your mid to late game, and then you can control the game. With Freya and Carry, it's also the same. You have lane domination and you have scaling potential that is just will skyrocket in towards the very late game. For jungle though, I have very big takes here. Um, Utility jungler is still alive, but with Suyu in play, you always have to pick him first. I feel like. And then you have these insurance picks where you cater Fredrin to a more utility type of playstyle and Leomord into an aggressive backline aggressor. Because if there's a Zet, Kim in the backline, I would like to pick Leomord. If there's a mage that really is annoying, pick Leomord or Suyu. For EXP, dive tanks are very much dominating right now in terms of these games. And except for Uranus, because Uranus, you don't really care about him. He's just there and does his thing. He cuts waves, he goes in fights, and he tanks up all of the damage. But for Lapu Lapu in Sora, the setups every time, the vacuums coming in from Sora, Lapu Lapu with the bravest fighter. It's a mix of both worlds. You have damage and as well as setup. So for EXP, that's been kind of the trend right now for my rank games. For mid, okay, this is where comfortability and just sheer amazingness would be nice. If Lilia wasn't here, I would actually put Kimmy. Um, because that's my
Understandable.
only mid laner right now. Yeah, Kimmy. Uh, I feel like Yue does this as well. Together with Zushin. Um, skip the upgraded boots. Go for Sky Piercer immediately. Uh, that's the trend for Zushin. For Lilia, it's good up against a Leomord, a Fredrin. These like in your face kind of heroes, especially on the XP jungle. And for Zetyan, what more can you want uh except for Zetyan? Zetyan gives you vision. Zetyan gives you an AoE stun. Zetyan gives you lane, and Zetyan gives you damage that is consistent all throughout the game. So if you wanna have a hero that is consistent in a way that you don't have to really think that much, you just have to think about when you're gonna be using your Order of the Phoenix, right? The ultimate, on how to use it in fights. Pick Zetian. For Rome, I feel like we're saying the same sentiments here. Khalid, woo! Khalid is just dominating the games right now. I mean, it's actually sad because I played Rome way back when Khalid was first introduced. I played Khalid Rome, not Khalid EXP or
Yeah.
anything else. Khalid Rome was such a great hero that no one knew how to play. Now they're playing it like me back then.
Wow.
So
The goat.
Khalid, you can call me I'm the gout. I'm the gout
The
of
goat.
Khalid. Yes. Grok, I feel like people are overestimating Grok right now. Grok is unkillable in the late game to a point that the first person that you should look out for if you're a carry is a Grok. Plus, the wall that Grok always uses is such a tempo changer in these fights. We talked about decision making and timing, and as well as dances in the river. Grok is an immediate factor in these fights. He can always close out openings, close out opportunities. Yes, most of the heroes right now in LLBB has a dash to go after that. But that means you expend a skill that has a cooldown to get over that wall, and Grok can always set up with the tectonic charge. Plus, with the help of Prof B, there's also a trend right now. If it's dangerous grass, flicker in towards the first skill, then tectonic charge. It's an immediate stun. If you first use the first skill, because if you use tectonic charge first, it's a big range. So players can react if they have flicker. For Hilda, it's same as Khalid. Um, you have survivability. Plus, if it's broken walls, always pick Hilda, in my opinion, because invading junglers and invading opposite jungle side is so easy. You just have the second skill, flicker, and then if they don't really target you, you can go through the walls. So this is my pick. Honorable mention would be Guinevere. Honorable mention would be Yisan Shin. Actually, yeah. Take out Freya, Miggy. Put Yisan Shin there. Yeah. Yeah, I hate Freya. Freya is so. I hate Freya.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I'm gonna change. That's all I'm gonna say. And that's it. Yeah.
Actually, I feel like it's nice that we have now we it's very different from when it was just us back and forth bipolar, but it's nice to have another person's perspective here.
Yeah.
Because now I see how very different our picks are gonna be. We have similarities, but we are not. I feel like we're not gonna have any identical looking picks,
Yeah.
top RG picks. Because on my end, it's still gonna be the Freya, carry, and then my third pick is Harith over Claude. Now I'll explain it later.
Yeah.
Moving forward, moving on to on the jungle side, you have your Suyu, you have your Harley, but you also have your Guinevere.
Yeah.
Yet again, we have similarities, but there's gonna be one difference. In the XP lane, I think this is where we're gonna be very, very, very different. So it's gonna be Sora for me, Phobius, and Yuzong. For my mid lane, it's gonna actually this might be the only one where we're gonna be similar in. It's gonna be Zushin, Valentina, and Eve. Those are gonna be my picks.
Come on, you guys are toxic.
Uh,
You guys are toxic. Why?
if you guys wanna win
Valentina mid?
games, you
Ah,
follow these. But then moving forward, here's what's gonna be different. So I'm gonna choose the Khalid as well. Oh, Khalid. I'm gonna put in the Hilda. Very situational though. My last pick is Marcel.
yeah. Mm.
So moving forward, so as I will follow the same format as what Bipoler and Greatchen did. For gold, Freya is there because she's just a difficult hero to deal with in the gold lane. She is, if you're gonna, she's played, you either play carry or you play a fighter, specifically Esmeralda. But then carry is here because I still feel like her early game activation is what helped her. Yeah, she has a hard time farming her Trinity build, but it's a lot easier for her to join the team fights without it. And my third pick, it would have been Claude before the changes, but now that Claude has to run on mana again, Harith is there because we've seen it in a lot of our pro games as well, wherein players or teams would rather first pick the Harith, especially if Claude is the only marksman open, because blazing duetting into a Zaman Force is not fun. So that's why I put Harith there. So it's a sort of like a rock paper scissors thing, much like my other picks where Suyu, Harley, and Guinevere exist, because it's also again a rock paper scissors. So you pick a Suyu, Harley gets picked. It's a 50-50. If you pick a Harley, if you pick a Suyu, Harley's banned. You bring out Guinevere. If you have a Harley, you ban out Suyu, you go against Guinevere. So it's the whole rock paper scissors in the jungle lane. That's my jungle position. That's why those are my three picks. Sora, Phobius, and Yuzhong. I put them here. Sora and Phobius, they are the 50-50. So they're the ones who match up with each other. Sora is strong in the lane, in the early game laning phase, but Phobius has a lot more impact against Sora in the team fights because even though Sora can set up and start the fight, Phobius can cut off the teams from engaging and connecting with him. All the while, Yuzhong is here because basically because Eve is there. A lot of the heroes that are still meta right now exist. Yi Sun Shin, Valentina, Yi Sun Shin and Eve. So your job as Yuzhong is to zone them out. You're gonna have an okay lane, whether you have an okay lane or a bad lane, good lane. Your job is still the same. Your job is to zone out the backline to make sure that they can't connect. Moving on to Zushin, Valentina, and Eve. It's another rock, paper, scissors. Again, if Zushin is open, you first pick Eve. Eve counters Zushin. Oh, I lost Valentina. Oh no. And then if Zushin is banned, you pick Valentina, counters Eve, or prevents Eve from going crazy. So that's why they're there. And then moving on, we talked about how well the roam is really about being tanky and providing vision. These are the three most mobile tanks right now. That's actually being played. So you have your Khalid and Hilda, the classic 50-50 as well. If you pick Khalid, you have to pick Hilda. If you pick Hilda, opponent has to pick Khalid. But now there's a third option, which is Marcel. Especially with the changes with his ultimate with Golden Hour. If you have a shield, if your teammate has a shield from Marcel and they get trapped in Golden Hour, they can freely move now. So that's a big change as well. So those are basically my rock paper scissors in each lane or each role, and that's why those are my top picks. So that's our top RG picks right there, right from the get-go. So to reiterate, for Greatchen, the gold lane is Freya, Claude carry, Bipoler, Harith, Yi Sunshin carry, and Miggy, it's Freya carry, Harith. In the jungle, it's for Greatchen, Suyu, Harley, Leomord, Bipoler, Suyu, Fredrin, Leomord, and Miggy, it's Suyu, Harley, Guinevere. For the XP lane, Greatchen went with Sora, Lapu Lapu, Alice, Bipoler went with Lapu Lapu, Sora, Uranus, And Miggy went with Sora, Phobius, and Yuzhong. Seems like I'm the odd man out, but it is what it is. Moving on to the mid lane, Greatchen with the Zushin, Valentina, Eve. Bipoler with the odd man out with the Zetian, Lilia, and Zushin. While Miggy, much like Greatchen's, Zushin, Valentina, and Eve. And for our roam picks, we all went with Khalid and Hilda, but Greatchen went with Glue, Bipoler went with Grok, and Miggy went with Marcel. And these are our thoughts and opinion, guys. FYI, just in case you please do not blame us if you guys pick this and you do not win your RG games. But these are our thoughts and opinions based on how we see it, how we play the game, and how we read the matches. And I think that pretty much covers it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Those are our top three picks per role for RG. Hopefully, you guys get the dubski by following us. I will be posting that list as well online, so you guys better be following us on our socials. And with that being said, that is in fact the breakdown of MPL Philippines Season 17 mid-season recap. Again, it's Miggy, and this is with Bipoler and Greatchen. The floor is yours if you guys want to shout out and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Greatchen first, since you are this is your debut in the channel, on the channel.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me here in the breakdown. I've learned a lot from you, Maggie, and Bipolar, because that is what's great thing about listening to this podcast. It's more about learning different perspectives and knowing a lot of spectrums that you can look into so that you can better appreciate what we're highlighting right now is MPL Philippines Season 17. And to our viewers, hopefully you can also share with us your perspective because I'm pretty sure we're going to learn a lot from you as well. So that would be insights that we can help to further improve our analysis of the game. And with that, thank you so much, and hopefully to see you guys soon again.
Okay, it's my turn now. For me, first and foremost, follow Gretchen in all her social media because she forgot to say that. So
I'm
I'll be the
sorry.
one to I'll be the one to say that so Gretchen doesn't need to stress about it. But for me and Gretchen, please do watch Athena Cup coming into our we're almost at our finals. We're almost there at our final day. Support the
Yeah.
women in esports just because they've been doing pretty well. Plus, its advancements and the upcoming Esports World Cup for MWI. For
Ooh.
me, Bipolar, we'll be having more content for my page on TikTok and as well as Facebook. Just follow me on at Bipolar with triple R's on the end. And for Miggy, thank you very much, brother. Another chance. I apologize for waking very very late because for some
It's all good,
reason
all
I did
good.
not wake up. But yeah, hopefully, we have more podcasts about this, and because you're getting traction now, Miggy. So congratulations, brother.
Thank you, thank you. So I guess with that being said, again, it's Mickey, Greatchen, Bipolar. We were thank you guys for listening to the breakdown where we people who think we can esports talk esports, discuss esports. So that's what the breakdown's all about. Again, you guys could follow them. I will be leaving their social media links down in the description box down below. If you guys like this type of content, we're actually this is our longest episode yet. We have reached around
Really?
2 hours of
Oh
content
my
and just
god.
us discussing. So if you guys wanna do chill, you wanna have us listen in your on the background. If you guys wanna have us just play in the background, white noise, and insightful white noise. Again, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Again, it's Miggy, Bipolar, and Greatchen, and we'll catch you guys next time.